Welcome in, folks, to another prediction week. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. We are diving into week 2 head on, and we got the Thursday night game. We're here on a Wednesday, so appreciate everybody being in here live and after the fact. If you are watching after the fact, we're going to start off this whole thing going with the Thursday night game, one of the best Thursday night games of the entire year. Obviously, the Rams-Bills was supposed to be something else, and didn't quite end up living up to expectations. But this game, going to Arrowhead against the Chargers, I think, you're getting this AFC West battle. We've been talking about how great this division truly is all offseason, essentially. But in reality, I'll say that it's really these two teams that I expect to come out of the AFC West and into the playoffs. Before we get started, be sure to hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already, and be sure to hit subscribe for more content like this and my other Rams and Jets centric content. So let's dive into it. We have the Chargers and we have the Chiefs, and both teams last week they go 1-0. We had the Chiefs winning 44-21 over Arizona in a game that really was never close to begin with. They clearly looked like the better team, and then the Chargers winning the game 24-19 over the Raiders in a game that I felt like they really didn't put the Raiders away like they should have. 3 interceptions, albeit they were without J.C. Jackson. Keenan Allen may not play in this game, but here is where I'm thinking I'm going to go, because I look at this game and I think it could go one of two ways, but I'm going to roll with my gut here. My gut is telling me that I should ride the home team here. So I am going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs 32-29. Right now, the spread is +4 for the Chargers, and I'm absolutely all over that. I think this is going to be a 3-point or, smaller type of game. And so I think right now, you look at it, the Kansas City Chiefs, they're, a great team. The Chargers are a great team. I like both these teams, but, right now, the way we just saw Patrick Mahomes play, yes, you don't have Tyreek Hill anymore, but I think they're going to figure out ways to get guys like Pacheco involved, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked really good, and guys like that to kind of alleviate the pain of trading away Tyreek Hill. So we saw Travis Kelce. He went for a $121 and touchdown on 8 receptions last week. I think it'll be more of the same, getting Kelce involved. Was really impressed with the play of L'Jarius Sneed on the defensive side. Highlighted him, in the season leaders there, 8 tackles, a sack, and a pass breakup. And then, of course, like I said, Edwards-Helaire, 2 touchdowns. If he can keep that up and he doesn't get hurt, he's going to be in for a really good year. As far as no Keenan Allen, I do think this opens up the door for DeAndre Carter, who caught a touchdown last week. It seems like he might have actually surpassed Josh Palmer, who was the 3rd-round pick that they got out of Tennessee. But Gerald Everett is another guy to keep in mind. They like him. And I would not be surprised if Gerald Everett's used quite a bit in Keenan Allen's absence. The big guy to look out for on the Chargers is not even Justin Herbert. It's Khalil Mack, and I think he's the equalizer here. The way he played last week shows that he's back. He's ready to go, and if he can put some pressure on Mahomes, it's going to be a long day for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I don't think it's going to be that damning, though, so I'm going to go with the Chiefs 32-29 here. Moving on, we have the Jets and the Browns. I'm starting it off right now, just right off the bat. I'm going to take the Jets +6. I'm not sold on this Cleveland Browns team. I'm not running to, the sports books to bet on this team, and I'm not running into the sports books to bet against the Jets. Look, you can say what you will about, well, it's just the Jets. They lost 24-9 at home, but look who they went up against. They went up against the Ravens. They really held Lamar Jackson in check. I mean, Lamar Jackson wasn't able to do much. He threw 3 touchdowns, don't get me wrong, but as far as his legs, he wasn't able to do much. Jacoby Brissett is nowhere near as mobile, and he's not really anywhere near the level of Lamar Jackson. In addition to that, they stopped the run well. The Jets were great last week. They had 17 pressures on Lamar Jackson. Their defense was awesome, and really what it came down to was the fact that the offense couldn't move the ball. Well, this week, I think the Browns are a little bit easier of an opponent than the Baltimore Ravens. Now, albeit the Jets will be on the road in this one, so I could see it going either way. You look at Brissett, I thought he played okay. I wasn't overly impressed with him. Nick Chubb was great, as always, and Kareem Hunt got going, as well as Donovan Peoples-Jones having one of his best games of his career. And Myles Garrett, of course, is Myles Garrett. I imagine, based on what they saw last week, they're going to change up their offensive approach a little bit, seeing that they have a very good defense. And so I think that the Jets can manage a win here on the road in Cleveland. I'm going to go with the Jets 20-13. I think they are the better team when Zach Wilson's healthy. And of course, without Deshaun Watson. If Watson was playing, and obviously he won't be playing for weeks, I wouldn't take the Browns, but I'm going to take the Jets here. I really like what the Jets have on defense, and I think they can correct things that, were the issue on offense. They're going to figure things out. Joe Flacco wasn't awful. He wasn't great, but when kept clean, he actually converted a few third downs, moved the ball. I think obviously this team is need of, Zach Wilson, but for the time being, I don't think Joe Flacco is terrible. And so as long as they can manage this game with Michael Carter, manage it with the rookie running back Breece Hall, then you know what? I'm going to give them some credit here. DJ Reed was awesome last week, and they got Corey Davis involved as well as Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore. So I'll take the Jets here +6, and I'll take them 20-13 outright to win their first game of the year. On the road in Cleveland. Cleveland last week won a nail-biter 26-24, and, last week the Jets lost a game in which if they had an offense, they probably win. Defense looks really good. If you haven't watched Jets football, they got a lot of good pieces there. Quinnen Williams, John Franklin Myers up front. They have, guys like Carl Lawson, Jermaine Johnson, the rookie. So I really like the direction the Jets are going in. Robert Saleh's defense, and that's why I'm taking the Jets here. We move on to the next game here. It is the Commanders and Lions. Last week, the Commanders came back after being up pretty much the majority of the game. They came back from behind and won the game against Jacksonville 28-22. On the other side of things, the Lions, I had them winning that game. And they did lose, but they came all the way back and showed some heart in that game. They got to fourth down. They forced a fourth down, and then unfortunately couldn't stop Jalen Hurts' QB sneak. So they ended up falling 38-35. I look at the Lions. Jared Goff had a really bad first half, but really got things together in the second half. I'm not out on the Lions here at all, and I actually like them this year. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I think they'll win, 7 to 9 games. I have them, winning 9 games. Jared Goff already got the jitters out, I think, in the first half. So as long as that's good and he's ready, he's good to go, then he'll play, 4 quarters of at least solid football, and that'll put him in a good position. You have DeAndre Swift, who went for 175 total yards on 18 touches, which is incredible. He had a touchdown as well. 2 of them were vultured by Jamal Williams, depending on how you look at it. If you're a fantasy owner of Swift, you would look at it that way. Amon-Ra St. Brown took a little bit to get going, but when he did, it was definitely necessary, and they used him the right way. Chark did drop a touchdown, but, saw some good things out of him, saw some good things out of TJ Hawkinson, and I didn't think the offensive line was terrible going up against a decent defense in the Eagles. Tracy Walker was phenomenal. Got to give him his props. He was incredible there, coming away with the sack, pass breakup, led the team, with 13 tackles. On the other side of things, we're also getting a number 1 overall pick versus number 2 overall pick in 2017. Carson Wentz is on the Commanders here. And keep in mind, Carson Wentz just had 4 touchdowns last week, albeit he threw 2 picks, and the Lions can generate turnovers, but he did throw 4 touchdowns, had over 300 yards, got things going with Jahan Dotson, who had 2 touchdowns, Terry McLaurin, and Curtis Samuel arrived on the scene. Definitely love to see that. Antonio Gibson being used, 130 total yards on 21 touches. And Derek Forrest in relief for the injured Cameron Curl really made his presence known. Career game for him, 5 tackles, interception, and a forced fumble that was crucial for them getting that win over Jacksonville. I'm going to take the Lions, as you can see there. I'm going to take the Lions -1.5. I think the Lions are going to win this game. Washington leads this all-time series 31-15, but Detroit has won 4 of the last 5, so I'm going to take Detroit once again here. 31-27. I think last week they were very close to upsetting the Eagles and really should have won that game. This week, I think Washington, they're a good football team, or at least competitive football team, got a good defense. But I think Jared Goff and all those weapons are just going to continue to grow. I think the usage of DeAndre Swift, now you have that as a blueprint on how to run this offense. Swift was huge for them last week. And obviously, when you get 175 yards on 18 touches, you should probably use him more. So I think Swift's going to be an integral part of this offense and this game. And so I have them winning 31-27 here at home at Ford Field. We'll see what happens about this team when they go on the road, but I like them in the confined elements of Ford Field. So that's what I'm going to go with there. Next game, we have the Buccaneers taking on the New Orleans Saints. Both 1-0, both won games. Tampa, they absolutely dominated Dallas. Not really offensively, but their defense did. 19-3 was the final score. At Jerry World, they did come away with that win. And then the Saints came away with a 27-26 W over the Atlanta Falcons, in which they, ended up falling just short. The Saints were able to come through with a comeback win, a game that I didn't think they really looked all that great. But now, and that was in Atlanta. Now they're at the Superdome here. And here's one thing, okay? Tom Brady has not beaten the Saints in a regular season game since joining the Buccaneers, okay? And I look at this game. New Orleans has won 4 of the last 5. They're 39-22 all-time series. Yeah, we get that. For whatever reason, they're underdogs at home. I'm not really high on this Tampa team. I'm not. And I can't just sit here and pretend, well, it's Tom Brady. If you look, Tom Brady had an okay game. He threw a pick that you can't see there because I ran out of room to throw interceptions in there. But I'm not sold on this Tampa team. And, Chris Godwin's dealing with issues. I'm not sold on it. I think Mike Evans, you know what you have in him. Leonard Fournette looked great. Looks like they might, run the ball more this year. And Devin White was huge with 2 sacks, a pass breakup, and 8 tackles. But I looked at the Saints team, and I saw, okay, they went down. They got down early on. They used some creativity with Taysom Hill. He had 5 touches for 83 yards and a touchdown. I put him at a tight end, but I don't even know what you classify him as. He's a positionless player at this point. Jameis Winston had 2 touchdowns, led this team back in the game. And, Michael Thomas had 2 touchdowns. Jarvis Landry got going. Olave had a huge 2-point conversion. So, I don't know. Pete Werner had a hell of a game as well. I'm going to take the Saints in this one, and I'm going to take the spread and just them to win outright here. I like the Saints this year. I don't think Tampa Bay has done a good job with Tom Brady against the Saints. Definitely not early on in the season. So I'll take the Saints to win a close one, 23-20. Saints win by a field goal. And I think, it'll be a fun game. It'll be a good game. But I think it'll be more of the same, A lot of, Tampa not really dominating on the offensive end like some people are going to, assume they will. Maybe they get things going a little bit better this time around. Dallas does have a tough defense, but I think the Saints have a tough defense. And, at the end of the day, I like the Saints to win this game and move on to 2-0. We move on to this game here. The Panthers taking on the Giants. The G-Men shocked the world, beating the Tennessee Titans in Nashville, 21-20. Carolina, bummer there. I had that being the blowout of the week, and they ended up losing a close game, 26-24. I felt for Baker Mayfield. Seeing that ball go right through the uprights had to have been tough. The Browns, his former team, won that game. But now we have the 1-0 Giants going up against the 0-1 Carolina Panthers. Daniel Jones did not look as bad on rewatch as I felt he did when I was watching the game live. Saquon Barkley looked as good, if not better, on rewatch. And Sterling Shepard, I thought, he only had 2 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown, but he looked great coming off that torn Achilles. I think that's a big deal for him. And then, there's a graphic error there with Pete Werner showing up, but don't mind that. Carolina on that side. You got Baker Mayfield, who definitely did not take long. It may not be the guy on your fantasy team, but Robbie Anderson with an IE now because he changed his spelling of his name. He had 5 receptions for 102 yards and a touchdown. He is getting that continuity developed clearly with Baker Mayfield, so you like to see that. Christian McCaffrey wasn't too impressed with. Obviously, he didn't get really much going in the run game or the receiving game. Damian Wilson had a solid game. So the Giants, I'm taking -2 here. I think the Giants win this football game. Carolina is winning the series all time. Carolina's won 3 of the last 5. But I'm not overly impressed with Carolina. I had them beating the Browns because I didn't think the Browns were that good. And there was the Baker, the revenge tour type of thing, if you will. So if they didn't win last week, I don't expect Ben McAdoo to go into MetLife Stadium and win against his old team. This is not a Ben McAdoo revenge game. I take the Giants here, and I'm going to take them as I hit the wrong thing. I'm going to take them 24-10 here. I do think they win in not a blowout, but, they're the better team, I think. Just wait until, they get their guy back. Here's the thing, okay? I'm not saying this is an endorsement to Daniel Jones or anybody like that. I understand them going 2-0, whatever. Like, you're probably like, But hear me out when I say this. I didn't think they had any reason to be in that game against Tennessee. I didn't think they played well at all. And they came away with that game with a 21-20 win. I think when you look at Brian Daboll getting in the face of Daniel Jones on the sideline, it awoke something in him. I don't know if he has to do that every game. But at the very least, I'm going to ride with the Giants here in a 24-10 game because I think they're the better team. And that's really that. I'll take the spread and the win outright. So we have, moving on, the Patriots and Steelers. And this game here, the Steelers are 2-point underdogs. Kind of surprise in my opinion. Mac Jones with the back issue. I think he'll play, but still, a little concerning. Damian Harris didn't really get going last week. Jacoby Myers had some moments. Devontae Parker and even Johnny Smith had some moments last week to look out for. Jawan Bentley had a sack, 7 tackles there. But Minkah Fitzpatrick on that defensive side for the Steelers was something else. TJ Watt's out for probably the next half season. Okay, he's going to be out for a while with the pec injury. But I think this team maybe got one of the best performances of his career out of him. And I'm talking about Alex Highsmith. I thought he played extremely well. Highsmith really showed up when needed. Pat Freiermuth showed up when needed. Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson. They didn't really have a running game, so they actually had Claypool running the ball a little bit. He was their leading rusher. Before anybody says anything, I don't blame Najee Harris. The offensive line was atrocious. And then Mitch Trubisky, I thought, he struggled to make some key throws, but at the end of the day, he led them to a game-winning drive to win in overtime. So, he did the things necessary when it mattered. And so, for that reason, no, you will not see, no matter how much you want to, you're not going to see Kenny Pickett until he makes some bad decisions and really starts costing the team games, if he even does that. So the last time Trubisky went up against the Patriots, I believe, actually starting, I believe he threw 6 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken, on the Bears. I don't have him doing it this time, but I do think the Steelers are the better team. The Patriots scare me at this point in time, and so I am going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers to go 2-0, following a huge overtime 23-20 win over Cincinnati. The Patriots looked less than stellar last week in Miami. I think, 20-7, just not a good performance by them. But that might be what they are until they figure out their whole offensive coordinator deal. They don't have McDaniels anymore, and you could definitely see that. So with Josh McDaniels gone, and apparently Matt Patricia calling plays or whatever they're doing over there, it's not working. It's early on, but that was an ugly game. So I'm going to take the Steelers here 23-13. They are at home. I like the Steelers. I don't know why they're underdogs at home when they just beat a team that was just in the Super Bowl. I understand New England's won 4 of the last 5. I understand New England leads the series, but most of that was with Tom Brady. I like Mac Jones, and I think, obviously his deep ball ability is there. That is the equalizer. If they could get past that secondary, you can do something. But I think it's going to be a test for New England. I think, they struggled against Miami, And I think, in my mind, the Steelers have one of the best defenses, in my opinion, in the entire National Football League. So, even though Watt is out, I still think this defense is great. I still think that they'll, manage the game with Trubisky enough, and they'll win this game 23-13. And yes, I'm taking the Steelers outright +2 on that one. So, we move on here to the Colts taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Same spot. They ended up losing their playoff berth, essentially, last season. Carson Wentz was at the helm of the quarterback position. This time it is Matt Ryan. We'll see what happens. I thought last week you saw some absolutely fantastic things out of the rookie number 1 overall pick, Trayvon Walker. He had a sack. He had an interception. He had some tackles. He showed you some great pressure off the edge. I just think this guy's great, and he was a lot better than I expected. So, great performance there. Christian Kirk looked justified in getting his money, 6 catches for 117 yards. Pretty good out of that receiver that we do give a lot of crap to. And then 69 total yards, 2 touchdowns from James Robinson coming off the dreadful injury that he had season-ending. So, it was great to see him in action. Trevor Lawrence missed some touchdowns. I thought he was okay. There were times where I definitely expected more of him. And then Travis Etienne, I thought Etienne, who dropped a touchdown, he also had a touchdown thrown over his head by Lawrence when he was wide open in the end zone. It was nice to see his first action as well. On the Colts side of things, Kwity Paye went off, 2 sacks. He had 7 tackles. You also had E.J. Speed in his first start because, you have Shaq Leonard, formerly known as Darius Leonard. He was out. E.J. Speed, I think, will start again. Really liked the game he had. And then, Michael Pittman going over 100 yards and 9 catches, a touchdown. Seems to be Matt Ryan's favorite target by a country mile. But the big news here, although Matt Ryan throwing 352 yards should be news, Jonathan Taylor went for 175 total yards on 35 touches and a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor is here to stay, just like we saw Cooper Kupp, just like we saw Justin Jefferson, Patrick Mahomes, you name them. All the stars really came out to play, it seemed like, in week 1. I mean, obviously some of them didn't, but the big-time stars like Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase even, those guys really came out to play. So who's going to win this game? I'm taking Indy -4 here. Jacksonville's won 3 of the last 5. For whatever reason, it's been tough to beat them in Jacksonville. Indy leads the series 26-16. Last week they tied, as you can see, the god-awful 0-0-1 record. They did tie last week, 2020, against Houston in Houston. They're still on the road. I know Jacksonville beat them last year. It's a different team. And Jacksonville lost a tough one on the road to Washington. They're at home, but I'm going to take the Colts here. -4 and outright, 31-17. I think it'll be an interesting game. I think the Colts pull away, in the fourth quarter. They're the better team. The Colts will be, representing this division, I think, in the playoffs. No doubt about it. I think they are the best team from this, this division. The Titans lost to the Giants. Jaguars lost. And then, this team and Houston tied. So no one has won yet from this division. I think the Colts get their first win, against the Jaguars here in Jacksonville and somewhat avenge, although the stakes there, missing the playoffs because of last year's brutal, but somewhat avenge last year's loss. We move on to the Dolphins and Ravens game. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw this. The Ravens are at home, and they're only 3.5-point favorites over the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins have a rookie coach, and yes, they did win 20-7 last week against New England, but I was a little surprised. I think the Ravens should be favored by at least a touchdown, at least. They're definitely the better team. Obviously things can happen. The Ravens won 24-9 against the Jets, and the Dolphins, like I said, won 20-7 against New England. Tua looked all right. All right isn't a good thing, not a bad thing. He did look all right. Chase Edmonds, 65 total yards and 16 touches. They got to get him more involved in Mostert and figure out what they're doing there. Tyreek Hill looked really good, very explosive, but you can see he is being limited by Tua's lack of their arm strength. And then, everyone's talking about Javon Holland, but Brandon Jones had a sack, a forced fumble, and 11 tackles. So have to give him mention there. On the Ravens side of the ball, Marcus Williams looks great in Baltimore. 12 tackles, interception, pass breakup. He was huge in that game. Devin Duvernay caught 2 touchdowns. Bateman looks awesome. They kind of held, for the most part, the Jets held Mark Andrews in check and Kenyon Drake in check. So, we'll see if Dobbins plays this week or not. Lamar Jackson had 3 touchdowns, but like I said, the Jets really held him in check as well. I think this week's going to be a little different. I think Lamar's going to, kind of go off in this game. So I'm going to take the Ravens here, and I'm going to, that's the next one. I'm going to take the Ravens here, and I'm going to go 38-20. I think they're going to score a lot of points. I really like their team. I really think this is the second best team in the AFC behind the Bills. I think they just got to get everything together. And, I have the Ravens winning 38-20. As you can see, that's why I was confused by the 3.5 point spread. I don't get it, but, maybe I'll be wrong. I mean, I was wrong quite a bit last week. Ended up going 7-8-1, for those of you who are wondering how that went. So, self-scouting. Always going to be honest about what happened. But, yeah, I'm taking the Ravens here, 38-20. Since I already spoiled it, we have the Falcons and Rams. Rams are 10.5 point favorites at home, as they should be. I understand Buffalo looked pretty bad, but like I've mentioned many times in this channel, they were down 17-10 at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Okay, this was still a game. It doesn't matter whether or not it should have been a game. It was still a game, and they really just blew it. They had 2 blown coverages to really blow it open. They forced 4 turnovers. That defense was fierce in the sense that, they forced 4 turnovers. Offense had to play a little bit better, and they simply didn't. So, you got to give the Bills your best if you want to beat them. But the same could be said when the Rams are playing, really good football. You got to beat them, with your best. And so, looking at this game, I thought Atlanta really looked good last week. They blew the game, 27-26. That should have been a win. They should have beaten New Orleans. Marcus Mariota looked pretty solid in his, first quarterback start since 2019. And Cordell Patterson looks like one of the best running backs in football. 25 touches for 136 total yards and a touchdown. You got Drake London going for 5 receptions for 74 yards. Michael Walker, 6 tackles, a sack, a forced fumble. I love what Michael Walker brings to the table because he's kind of that combination where he could play the edge. He's kind of very, very poor man's Micah Parsons in the sense that he could play the edge. He could play inside linebacker. He can kind of, do it all. So he's the name to look out for, as well as Grady Jarrett, who can really just tear through, your offensive line, your interior offensive line. Matthew Stafford is going to be a lot better in this game than he was last week. Okay, let me just say that right now. But I don't think he was necessarily that bad last week. I think just things got away, and it happens. A lot of coverage sacks. I thought the Bills did a really nice job of game playing against him. Leslie Frazier, hats off to him. We'll see what Dean Pease, the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, does. Maybe he brings out all the stops and does the same thing. But the problem is you can't do the same thing. People have asked me, do they have the blueprint on how to stop the Rams? I don't think you could say they have the blueprint because Sean McVay and company can switch what they're doing. They stayed in 11 personnel the entire game. They'll get out of that if they need to. They're not going to just stay in 11 personnel if something like that happens again. Darrell Henderson, I thought you saw some great stuff out of 18 touches for 73 total yards. Probably should have had more, but then again, the blocking could have helped a little bit more. Cooper Kupp looked like Cooper Kupp last year. 13 catches for 128 yards, a touchdown. He is going to be crucial in this game, as well as I think getting Allen Robinson involved because it does look like Van Jefferson might not play. We'll see how that goes, but it is up in the air about Van Jefferson's status. And then Troy Hill coming away with 8 tackles, leading the team, an interception, and a pass breakup. He had himself a very good game against the Bills. Jumped in front of a Josh Allen, pass and picked it off. So, yeah, they lost 31-10. Atlanta ended up losing 27-26. Rams are 10.5 point favorites. Atlanta has won 4 of the last 5. The last time they played the Rams kind of smoked them. Rams lead the all-time series 48-30-2. So there's actually been 2 ties, believe it or not. This isn't going to be a tie, though, in my opinion. I think the Rams take this one 34-17. I know there's a lot of people that are saying they're going to absolutely destroy the Falcons. I think this is probably a 34-10 game. Falcons get a garbage time touchdown. And to be honest with you, if this was in Atlanta, I would change my tune a little bit. But I do think the Rams are going to bounce back, and they're going to be very fierce because no team last year did make the playoffs going 0-2, and I can't see the Rams going 0-2. I can't see that. It took this year in Sean McVay's tenure, year 6, for them to lose their first game of the season, for the first time. So I don't see them losing back-to-back here to start the year. They normally, when they have those moments, it's normally like November, October area, not when the season starts. They got that game out of the way. They've had a lot of time to prepare. There's no excuse to not be prepared moving forward. So I'm taking them 34-17. I think you'll see more usage of Cam Akers and Allen Robinson, like Sean McVay said. But once again, if you're a fantasy football guy, look out for Darrell Henderson, Cooper Kupp, and maybe they try to get Tutu out while going as well. They tried to last week. It wasn't really the type of game plan going up against that you could really get him involved. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But that's what I have, 34-17 over the Atlanta Falcons. So we move on to the next game here. Seattle taking on San Francisco. So raise your hand if Seattle surprised you. Everyone's hands should be up. Even if you thought they were going to win, I don't think you thought Geno Smith was going to come out and play the way he did. Doesn't have the yards. I've heard that. But he had 2 touchdowns, played mistake-free football. He was 23 of 28, looked really good. Didn't get the massive production that he got last year. The Seahawks got last year at Rashad Penny towards the end of last year, but he was okay. Will Dissly was the leading receiver, 3 catches, 43 yards, and a touchdown. Uchenna Nwosu, what can you say about him? Sack, forced fumble, 7 tackles for loss. Yes, they're without, Adams, and that's going to suck. Jamal Adams does help them out. But at the same time, I was really impressed with the fire this defense displayed. And I do have to give some credit here. Shelby Harris, I think, has brought some life to this defense. I think he can be that captain, that kind of, leader in the locker room type of guy in the middle. And so for that reason, I do think that you noticed the defense, take a step forward. They won last week against Denver, as you guys know, and or rather this week. Monday Night Football. Yes, we can say all we want. Denver shouldn't have kicked a 64-yarder. You got to give Seattle credit. I don't care if they were at home. They played against their old quarterback, and they literally traded him to a team that they basically traded him to get picks because, well, Denver, they're going to go and win a Super Bowl, right? Well, maybe not. And I wasn't really surprised with how the Broncos looked, to be honest with you. But moving over to the San Francisco 49ers here. 0-1 they start this season. Trey Lance versus Justin Fields. The guy they got 3rd overall and the guy that went after the top 10. I don't think any of them played well. I've heard, Niners drafted the wrong guy. I think it's way too early. I'm not going to victory lap Justin Fields having a 47 completion percentage and running for, below 3 yards per carry. It was monsoon weather. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm also not going to victory lap anybody, individually, right? If you want to say Justin Fields led him to win, absolutely. That's absolutely fair. But San Francisco didn't have George Kittle. I don't think they'll have him again. This will be interesting here. Trey Lance, we got to get more out of him, obviously. Deebo Samuel can't be putting the ball on the ground. He's getting paid too much money to do that. Jawan Jennings looked pretty good. And Talanoa Hufanga looks like an absolute stud. Had 11 tackles, interception, pass breakup. Was starting to play towards the end of 2021. And you're really seeing that they like him a lot. Seattle is plus 9.5 point underdogs. They've won 4 of the last 5. They're 30-17 all time. I don't get this because even if you think Seattle's going to lose, 9.5 point underdog seems steep for a team that has swept the San Francisco 49ers back-to-back seasons. I don't get that. So I'm going to probably roll with Seattle here, plus 9.5. But I'm going to take the 49ers to win outright. I don't see them going 0-2. I have 24-20. I think Seattle deserves more credit. And I did say coming into the year, they're not going to be as bad as people think. They have a good defense. It looks that way anyway so far. And as long as Geno Smith continues to play the way he did, they're going to be in every game because he can manage the game. They have plenty of weapons. They didn't get Metcalf really that involved. They didn't get Lockett that involved. So there's a lot of potential here, for Seattle. But I got to give the Niners credit here. The Niners are a good team. Yes, they lost to Chicago. They lost on the road to Chicago in the freezing cold and the pouring rain. Okay, I get that. But like I said, it was monsoon weather. Okay, Trey Lance has started, 3 games in his career? I'm not out on him. And I'm not out on him at home. And even though they don't have George Kittle, they have Ayuk. Okay, they have Juwan Jennings. They have Deebo Samuel. I'd take a little bit of a gander over at Marlon Mack, who just signed on in the practice squad. They might use him. They have Ty Davis-Price. They have guys. I'm not worried about, Jeff Wilson. I'm not worried about this Niners team without Elijah Mitchell. I've done that multiple times, so apologies there. But I'm not, I'm not throwing this team out because of that. They still got a good defense. They held the Bears to only 19 points. And it really came off the back of that, broken coverage play with Dante Pettis. So, yeah, I'll take the Niners 24-20. If Seattle wins, then I guess every time I pick against Seattle, they're just going to keep, proving me wrong. So, yeah, Niners win this one, but take Seattle's points because Niners shouldn't be 9.5-point favorites. All right, moving on to the next one. We have the Bengals versus the Cowboys. I'm thinking not upset city. I'm thinking blowout city. But before we get into that, the Bengals, they are 7.5-point favorites. I feel like this should be higher, personally. No Dak Prescott. You're going to have Cooper Rush. I'm not high on Cooper Rush. I don't know about you guys. I'm certainly not. I'm not high on Ezekiel Elliott either. They couldn't really get Pollard going. Noah Brown was their leading receiver. Micah Parsons still looks phenomenal. The defense is really good. I think that's what we established. They lost 19-3 against Tampa, but the defense really put Brady into a position where he was pretty vulnerable. If they had any semblance of an offense, they could have won that game. But here's the deal, okay? Joe Burrow just had 5 turnovers. He did not look good at all against the Steelers. But even still, he continued to battle. He ended up throwing for 2 touchdowns. He led his team back. You got to give that guy credit because he did hang in there, and yes, he put him in the hole, but he kind of dug him out of it. Gave him a chance to win in overtime. Missed field goal, very uncharacteristic missed field goal, ended up being, a downfall for them. Joe Mixon, they got him involved, 34 touches for 145 total yards. You like to see that. Jamar Chase, more of last season, showing up on paper, 10 receptions, 129 yards, a touchdown. I know people are concerned because T. Higgins has a concussion. I would just say, Tyler Boyd, you're going to be fine, okay? Tyler Boyd is a very good receiver. He'll get more of an opportunity. Mike Thomas, on the other hand, that's definitely a huge downgrade, but I think Tyler Boyd might be on the same level as Higgins. Just for whatever reason got pushed out of the equation. He's not as, flashy. He's not as tall, whatever. But he's a very good receiver. He had back-to-back 1,000-yard years before Higgins came into the picture. And then, of course, B.J. Hill, a huge sack, 3 tackles. So what do we take from this? Okay, you have an overtime loss from the Bengals at home, and you have a 19-3 loss from the Cowboys at home. Dallas has won 4 of the last 5. Dallas is 9-4 all time. But I'm going to take the Bengals here, and I'm going to take that spread. I like the spread there to bet on anyway. I think it should be way higher. 37-10. It's going to be a blowout. Okay? Cooper Rush might surprise people on the first drive when it's really scripted and everything, but those quarterbacks, it's how they adapt when the game, via the game flow, when things change. I just don't see the Cowboys having a chance. The reason I don't have the Bengals scoring 40 plus is because I think the Cowboys have a legitimately good defense, which, will hold them from doing that. But they're going to be exhausted. I see a lot of 3-and-outs in this game, and the Bengals are pissed, man. They just lost at home to their division rival, coming off a Super Bowl loss, hearing all the Super Bowl hangover talk. I don't know, man. I think the Bengals are going to lay a beating on them at Jerry World, but that's just me. Moving on here, we have the Texans taking on the Denver Broncos. For some reason, Denver, who struggled against Seattle, is plus 10 or is 10-point favorites against a team that just took Indy to overtime to a tie. Look, I don't think the Texans are going to be great. They might win 3-game stops this year, but I'm not going to bet on the Broncos minus 10. I'm not going to do it. Russell Wilson moved the ball. He had a lot of yards. I wasn't really that impressed with Wilson. I thought he looked good, not great. And then, of course, the botched graphic there, so don't mind that. Davis Mills, I thought looked pretty good, with the Texans there. I'm a little concerned or a little confused why they got Rex Burkhead involved so much and didn't use Dameon Pierce. I'm actually confused why Rex Burkhead made the roster over Marlon Mack, to be quite honest with you. Brandon Cooks, 7 receptions, 72 yards. It's Brandon Cooks. Model of consistency. Get him involved. Kamu Grieger-Hill had 18 tackles, which you can't even see in the graphic there. But pretty crazy. He was all over the place, this week. Denver leads the all-time series 5-3. They've won 3 of the last 5. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the Texans and the points here, plus 10. But I'm going to take the Denver Broncos to win an ugly 19-13 game. I think this will be, like I said, I think it's going to be ugly. I think Denver will win at the end. A little bit better game management, hopefully, from their coach there. Really struggled last week. So, we'll see what ends up happening there, Nathaniel Hackett. But that's what I have as of now. The Texans fall to 0-1-1. So, that's how I have it. Next one here. We have the Cardinals taking on the Raiders. So, these two both lost last week. The Raiders blew it, in my opinion. You go back, you watch the game against the Chargers. No way Derek Carr should have been throwing deep down the field the way he was throwing. It was a manageable game. It was a game they could have won. They got 73 yards on 11 touches out of Josh Jacobs, and they just didn't use him. Like, they just stopped using him. Another team that did that we'll get to later, Green Bay, stopped using Aaron Jones. I don't get it. When you have that level of consistency and production from somebody like that, I just don't understand what we're doing here. So, with that said, I'm going to take the Raiders minus 5.5. I like that spread there. I really do. The Cardinals looked pitiful against Kansas City, and they were at home. Raiders have won 3 of the last 5. They lead the all-time series 6-4. Nate Hobbs had 2 tackles for a loss. He had a huge forced fumble. Devontae Adams looks like Devontae Adams. Hopefully the Raiders are looking at last week and like, all right, we should probably use Josh Jacobs a little bit more. Shout out to Eno Benjamin. I thought Benjamin looked like the best running back, not James Conner. Eno Benjamin looked like the best running back in Arizona. Kyler looked okay. He played mistake-free football, but he let the game get away from him. Greg Dortch was their leading receiver. Having a hard time knowing what's going on. The Marquise Brown pick after week 1 looks like a colossal bust, and was not a fan of that pickup at all. Trading a first and a third round pick. Should have gotten the other Brown, A.J. Brown. And then Marco Wilson with 2 pass breakups and a forced fumble. He had himself a game. But Kansas City absolutely trounced them. Probably would have been worse. Took the foot off the gas pedal a little bit. But I'm going to take the Raiders here 33-27. This is really where the line should be. 5.5 for the Raiders at home. Because I do think they win by 6 here. But, that's how I have it. I think this is a fair line. So the Cardinals go 0-2 to the shock of nobody. If you've been following my channel, I'm not very high on Arizona to begin with. So that is that. Next up, we have the Sunday night football game. Big time rivalry, goes way back. They've played so many games. Green Bay is 103, 95, and 6 all time in the series. Green Bay has won the last 5 games in a row. The Bears just came off a surprising win. The Packers came off what is a surprising loss to some, but others not so much. And I did last week have the Minnesota Vikings beating Green Bay by 10. They ended up winning 23-7 in a game that really was always Minnesota's from the get-go. The Packers are 10-point favorites. That might seem a little high considering the Bears just beat the Niners, but Green Bay at home, Aaron Rodgers being the dad of Chicago, I don't know about that. I'm not going against Aaron Rodgers. I'm not going against the Packers at home against Chicago. So I'm taking the Packers here. Aaron Rodgers didn't throw a touchdown. I imagine that'll change in this one. They got to use Aaron Jones more. They just have to. A.J. Dillon was not bad by any stretch, but they got to get Aaron Jones more involved. I do think he's the better back. Romeo Doubs looked interesting. 4 catches, 37 yards. Seems like he might be the guy moving forward that Aaron Rodgers wants to throw to. Problem is with Rodgers, he has to trust you before he throws it. There's some quarterbacks that'll just throw to whoever's on the field. Rodgers, Brady, guys like that, they have to trust you before they're putting the ball in your hands. Rashawn Gary looked really good, by the way, and I would imagine you'll see more out of Jair Alexander, who wasn't able, for whatever reason, to shadow Justin Jefferson. They had him pretty much off him most of the game, and they also had Rasul Douglas. So I assume you'll get better play out of them. They have a good defense. It's not a great roster. I think it's a good roster with Aaron Rodgers that kind of elevates it to top of the league or one of the top teams in the NFC. But then you look at the Bears, and like I said, Justin Fields didn't look amazing. He won the game. Definitely good there. They didn't really get David Montgomery on the ground going. So we'll see about that. The 49ers did a nice job stopping the run. Might have been due to the elements because they were literally playing in puddles. Thought you saw some good things out of Khalil Herbert in the run game. Dante Pettis caught a touchdown, 51-yarder. And Dominique Robinson, the rookie who I wanted my team to draft so badly, had 1.5 sacks, had 7 tackles, tackled for a loss. Huge debut for him. He looks very good, somebody that they can develop, as well as Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State. Really liked his game. The things I saw on tape really stood out. He already looks like he's going to be a stud at safety. So last week they won 19-10. The Packers lose 23-7. How do I have this game going? Well, I'm going to take the Packers 30-13. You kind of knew I was going to go with the Packers because I had them minus 10, and obviously there's no way the Bears could win if I'm taking a team minus 10. But I just think the Packers are going to roll over the Bears. I don't think the Bears are that good. I don't think they're that terrible, but I can't take them. This isn't a changing of the guard yet. Aaron Rodgers is not gone. This Packers team is in relax mode, and you know what I mean by that? If you remember, they lost a few games to start the season, and Rodgers had the infamous relax moment in the post-game press conference. We're in that mode. It's going to take a little bit. They have younger receivers. They let Devontae Adams walk, or rather trade him away. So you're going to have this moment, and it's going to be some growing pains, but I think they'll be fine. This is where it starts, 30-13 on Sunday Night Football. So next up, we have 2 more games, and I have no words. Why do we have a doubleheader on Monday? Let me rebuttal to that. Why do we have a doubleheader on Monday within an hour or so apart? Why would you overlap games? I don't get this. This is to the NFL. Like, what are you doing? I know you probably aren't watching this at any point, but what are we doing with the overlap of the doubleheader Monday Night Football games? All right, I had to get that out of my system. Now we can get into the Music City miracle, showdown here between the Tennessee Titans and the Buffalo Bills. These two fan bases hate each other from, events that happened years ago that would have put the Bills in, potentially a position to go to the Super Bowl against the Rams, which is the Super Bowl prediction that I have. But that obviously, that didn't happen. The Titans are 0-1 after basically I don't know, giving up the game against the Giants. I don't have any other words to put it into. I mean, they just absolutely gave it away. They had the game won. I don't get it. You have Derrick Henry. Only had 21 touches. You had, I mean, Jonathan Taylor had 34 or whatever in his. There's no reason. Derrick Henry needs more touches. But anyway, 2 touchdowns, 266 yards from Ryan Tannehill. Felt like he really just didn't use Robert Woods at all. He was open, and I don't know what was going on there. Like I said, more usage of Derrick Henry was needed. He fell in love with Dontrell Hilliard, 2 touchdowns, 61 yards. Good for him. And Jeffrey Simmons looked great. I mean, that's pretty much that. They are missing Harold Landry. No doubt about it, they are missing Harold Landry, but I'm very surprised they lost to the Giants. Now on the Bills side, they're the best team in football right now. Whether you want to admit it or not, they are the best team in football. Josh Allen, fantastic quarterback. He threw 2 picks against the Rams. One, it bounced off a receiver's hands, went into the arms of Terrell Lewis, the linebacker. The other one was a really nice play on the ball by Troy Hill. I think when you look at these two, Bills are coming back home following a huge win over the Rams. A lot of time to go over things. I mean, they've been off since Thursday. The Titans played on Sunday, and so don't really like the way this looks. Devin Singletary looked really good on the ground. We'll see if they actually get him going and let him stay going. They kind of abandoned the run. They have kind of a weird backfield where they use committee, but they clearly have a better running back than all 3 that they have right now. It's Singletary. Stephon Diggs looked great. Gabe Davis looked great last week. Von Miller was an absolute terror. I expect kind of the same things here. I'm going to take the Bills -10. They've won 3 of the last 5. They're losing the series 30-19, but I do think they're the best team right now in the NFL, and so I am going to take the Bills over the Titans in a blowout. I don't think the Titans look very good. 38-14 on the road, and that's how I have that going. So that means we have one more game here, and it is what I believe is the game of the week. So last but certainly not least, we have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Finally, we get a good Monday Night Football game. Sorry to the Titans, but that Bills game I don't think is a great Monday Night Football game. This is a great Monday Night Football game. Okay, Minnesota +2. I really like both these teams. I like the way the Eagles responded to the comeback bid by the Lions. I like what I saw out of Jalen Hurts. A.J. Brown looks tremendous. James Bradbury looks good. And Miles Sanders got going, as well as Kenny Gainwell on the ground. On the other side, you have, the Vikings, where Kirk Cousins looked as good as I expected. Justin Jefferson looks like on another level. Jordan Hicks, 14 tackles, a sack, quarterback hit. And then, Dalvin Cook had himself a game, over 100 yards. So who am I going to go with? The team that won 23-7 or the team that won 38-35 last week? Team that's on the road or the team that's at home? Minnesota's won 3 of the last 5. Minnesota leads 15-14. And I believe that Minnesota is going to stay in the lead of that all-time series. I'm going to take them to win this game 31-30. They're 2-point underdogs. I have them winning outright. I definitely think the line is fair because they're on the road. I have no issue with the line whatsoever. I'd even say +3 is fair. But at the same time, I'll take them all day. Don't mind the graphic. It totally screwed up apparently. So, yeah, that's how I see it. I think A.J. Brown has himself a game. I think Justin Jefferson has himself a game. I just think this is going to be one of the best games of the week. It will be the best game of the week. It'll be one of the best games of the year. We'll go back. We'll look on this. These are 2 playoff teams, in my opinion. I think Kirk Cousins, everyone's going to probably pick against the Vikings. Everyone's probably going to pick against the Vikings because Kirk Cousins can't play in primetime games. I've heard it all. I don't care. I'm gonna take the Vikings. I think they have a really good team. I really like what I saw out of them against the Packers. I thought their defense looked good. Zadarius Smith has added much needed pass rush help. So yeah, I'm gonna take the Vikings here, 31-30, and on to week 3, I guess, right? Damn, we're moving through quickly. So we'll see how these picks turn out, but this is your final Monday Night Football game of the week. I know I have to say final because we have a doubleheader for some reason. So I have the Vikings moving on to 2-0. And at that point, I mean, power rankings, you could probably put them number 2 behind the Bills. But that's how I have it. How do you guys have it? Let me know in the comment section below. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the thumbs up. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. Definitely does me a favor trying to get this, NFL show going, but can only do it with the views, the likes, and the subscribers going up. So trying to branch out a little bit. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys enjoyed last week's video. And I'll continue to do these every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to pick the games. Be a lot of fun. Maybe we'll start doing, some other stuff, maybe with props and whatnot. We'll explore, try to, branch out a little bit. But that's going to do it for me. So please make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed this. Not if I made your team lose, but just if you enjoyed this. But that's going to do it for me. So I will see you guys soon. I will be back with a bunch more content, but this is it for now. So thank you guys so much, and you guys take care. Later.